is. In fact, I was so quick to turn off my music on Facebook that folks here on YouTube didn't get a chance to hear my intro, but that's okay. That's okay. I did do a reboot for everybody. I'm very happy to say that right now we are live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. And I am with the great Lincoln Kennedy. Lincoln, thank you for sharing your time with us. I know it's you were saying you were about ready to eat dinner, and I hope I didn't take you away from your dinner time too much, sir.
Come on, now you know better than that. You're not going to take me away from any kind of food, Cap. But it's a pleasure to be with you, my friend. Good to be with you.
Well, I'm sure everybody here is ready and so happy to hear from you. I will say this. If you are on Facebook, because I don't know how much of the connection is going to work, if you're on Facebook, be ready to go over to YouTube. That's the best I'm going to do with you, because I don't know how much longer this is going to work. So if the Facebook feed goes down, I apologize. But I know I'm on YouTube, and that's where you need to be, because when you got your questions, I'm reading from YouTube. That's where I can see better. My eyes are not as good as they used to be. They're not sharp like Mr. Kennedy's are. So I want to make sure that I can see all your comments. So make sure you're over there on YouTube. Again, Lincoln, welcome to the show. And I got a couple things for you. First off, sir, I spoke with Willie Rofe a few months ago. He was one of my first interviews, so he says the next time I get a chance to talk with you, to send some his best your way. And so I'll start off with that. One of these days, I want to have you and Willie here in the house together, so people can't say how fat I am, because I'm going to be very. And I don't say you guys are fat. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that in between you and Willie Rofe, I will look like a skinny rail in comparison. So
True story, but it's all good. It's all good. We are fat, but it's all
no.
It's okay.
Yeah, no. You're not fat. You are just football huge, baby, which is a good thing. Good thing. So always remember that. But again, one of these days when you're packing around Florida, you and Willie are definitely invited in to the room, and I'll make sure that happens as well. And I was going through your bio, obviously, realizing that you're from York, Pennsylvania. I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah. I was born in York, Pennsylvania. I was raised in San Diego, so I kind of call that as home, because I was a Navy brat. My father was in the Navy, and that's what got us out west. So that's kind of what I call home. But, yeah, born in York, Pennsylvania, and then we got multiple generations on both sides of my family, because both my parents were born in central Pennsylvania. So the multi-generation family members back there as well.
Okay. Well, then that's that other thing we got in common. We were both Navy brats.
There it is.
There you go. Now, and I was going to mention that you went to Morris High School in San Diego, which is when I was stationed in San Diego. I remember Morris being one of the primo high schools there. So as a stalwart player for Morris, I got to ask you, how the hell did you get out of state and not play at USC and UCLA?
Well, interesting story. When I went to USC, I took an unofficial visit to UCLA. USC was the third school that I visited, second school I visited on my recruiting trips. USC that weekend had over 48 recruits there. And though the pageantry and everything, was definitely felt spoiled, I've never really been a big fan of LA. And so that wasn't a draw for me, especially coming from Southern California, San Diego. Been to LA many a times, and just felt I needed to get away. I personally feel, Cap, that in order for a boy to become a man, he's got to learn how to be on his own and spread his own wings. So, I didn't want to live in my backyard around my mom. My mom didn't want to let me go to college because when I graduated high school, I was really young. Even though I was large, I was really young and immature. She really didn't want me to go to college, and especially didn't want me to play college football. So kind of felt I had to get away from her. So that's how I got out of state, but still relatively close, just a couple states removed in Washington.
Okay, well, so it was a good thing for you, like a mental break then, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it was. It was a good thing. It was a way to get away. And then also, I had mentioned that the time I went to SC, they had the 48 recruits that weekend. And I had heard some horror stories up until that point and some football all-star games and stuff like that. Guys that committed to SC that didn't get a scholarship had to walk on or try to find other means to get into school there because they only have so many scholarships around. Now, you got to keep in mind, even though I had a successful career, at no point did I really think that I was really that good as people said I was. And of course, I found out otherwise through my success. But I thought that I could very well be one of those kids that commit to a school like SC, and then they pull the scholarship offer back, and then I'd really be asked out because I wouldn't have any way to be able to get to college.
Well, nobody's going to pull a scholarship from you. Okay, even retroactively, first off they have to go through me and everybody else, and we're not going to let that happen because we love you too much. And
I appreciate that. I love you guys too.
And again, and that's a couple of the questions I'm going to have. I tell you, I mean this sincerely, and I'm telling everybody that has not had a chance to meet Lincoln personally, you are missing probably one of the most down-to-earth and friendly, and just he treats you like you're the next door neighbors for years, and that's not blowing smoke up the tuchus. I mean, he really cares about all of us, especially amongst Raider Nation. He's nice to everybody, but except for probably players that he might not have liked when he was playing in the NFL. We'll get. No, he's probably still likes them too, but he's a great guy. So if you ever get the chance to meet Lincoln personally, make sure you are running to all of these events. So we're gonna have like one more there. You were UW, and it was Pac-10 back then, was it not?
Yes, correct, Pac-10.
Okay. Obviously, when you were playing in the Pac-10, you had to play down with some of the people that you played ball with. So give me probably one of your top memory or two from playing in the Pac-10, and who are these players that you played with and against that you got a chance to play with in the NFL as well?
Well, I tell you what, I had an opportunity to play against the great Junior Seau when he was in college. Willard McGinnis, obviously, also another one that went to SC. Most notably, the SC games were the most memorable for me because growing up in Southern California, I really took it personal when we had the chance to beat them. So we had some success, but played against Rodney Peete. Thinking of a bunch of other USC guys, and then of course there was some UCLA guys. I guess one of my fondest memories was Pat Harlow was on a team that we had beaten in Seattle, an SC. He was an offensive tackle, and we had played opposite of each other on different teams for a while. Then we joined forces on the Raiders back when he came over to the team. So it was a great time to get to know him, and he was one of my closest friends, and still is.
We remember Pat Harlow from the opening game against Kansas City, but I'm not going to talk about that.
Well, let me just respond to him there, and his support, and his favorite thing was, Buell and those guys put him in a really bad situation that they said they weren't going to do when they called those 7-step drop passes in Kansas City. So that wasn't his fault altogether. But anyways, lots of great visions and memories from a lot of guys that I played with, either against the different schools or with at Washington. So college was so long ago. A lot of these stories are blurred up. So it was just a good relationship, and it's like a fraternal brotherhood. Anytime you see them, you're gonna want to hang with them and talk with them, and even though the differences back then were ran deep as far as the rivalry goes with me and a number of schools, including Oregon and Wazoo. The thing was, after the season was over and after the games were over, we all took off our helmets and we became close friends.
As it should be. And so you played your UW up there. Any bowl appearances while you were there?
I was fortunate enough to win the Pac-10 3 times, 3 consecutive seasons. Played in 3 consecutive Rose Bowls. twice against Michigan, won 1-1 against Michigan, and once against Iowa. We won 2 out of the 3 Rose Bowls and the national championship. So glad to say that I had a pretty successful college career.
So, okay, yeah, the national champ, that was under Coach James, correct?
Correct, Don James, correct.
Okay, and so you get that national championship, so you get the feel for wearing that championship ring. And again, I'm not that I'm going to go, that's not like a precursor for something I'm going to ask later on, but get the fact that you have a championship ring for your college days. And you also, by the way, if folks don't know it, Lincoln Kennedy is a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. So he's got another ring that is proud to wear and well-deserved for his time up there at Washington.
Thank you.
Well, and I wanted to ask, when I was interviewing Willie Roaf and we were talking together, I was asking him about his preparations that he had for because you guys came out the same year, correct?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Came out the same year. Willie was the 8th pick overall to New Orleans. I was the 9th pick overall to the Falcons.
And he told me that he was actually surprised that he was picked ahead of you, but he said something about was there an injury or something that precluded you from working out, or what was the story behind that?
Yeah, I had in my senior year, I had broke several bones in my wrist. I played the entire season with a break, but after the season was over, it was imperative. The doctor said that I go get it fixed and get it repaired. I was unable to work out at the combine. I did have a private pro day at Washington. I was able to get a workout in. And by that time, most people were just concerned with how much I was weighing than whether or not I could play ball. They had already figured that I could play. But yeah, when we went to the combine, I had a cast on my hand, so I didn't work out. So most of the guys remember that. But no, it was a smart move by New Orleans Park for several reasons to pick Willie at the time. Both of us tackles were pretty equally rated, and the thing was that Willie went to school in Louisiana. I think at Louisiana Tech.
Yes, sir.
So it was almost like a smart business move if you draft a guy out of Louisiana for a local team, and he turned out, for them, an All-Pro and Hall of Famer.
As it is, it did work out for them, and you went to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna gloss over the fact that the people in Atlanta were wrong. And that's just what I'm going to say. The people in Atlanta were wrong. And in one sentence, what do you think happened that people were upset about? Because the next sentence is really good. Okay, I'm gonna give you that. What happened in Atlanta there, Lincoln?
Well, the best way to explain what happened in Atlanta. The offensive coordinator was JUN Jones, and he ran a run and shoot offense. And my style of play wasn't really conducive of a running style. I came from a power running team in college, open passing game, stuff like that. But it really wasn't conducive of the run and shoot style. So besides that, JUN Jones had a predisposition on how much he thought I should weigh and what I should look like. So we had issues that we were fighting internally with about my weight while I was there. So never really got a fair shot, and that's one reason that after 3 years I demanded a trade, because I only signed a 3-year deal. My goal, captain, back in the day was try to be the first tackle that was drafted, and that was all I was looking forward to. And I didn't really care where I went. But when we realized that it was going to be Atlanta, because Atlanta was trying to draft the bookends of the future. The year before, they had drafted Bob Whitfield out of Stanford, and he was playing tackle. And then they were going to draft me, and the goal was to have their bookends, their offensive line secured for the next decade. And so that's what I was looking forward to. So the coach and I really didn't get along, and I wanted out, and I was glad that I was able to get out.
Okay, well, I promised you that the next question would be great. And again, I glossed over the unhappiness in Atlanta. Their misfortune, because the Raiders reached out and you became the stalwart right tackle, the professional lineman that we needed, okay? Coming into Oakland, can you give us fans a view of talking with Mr. Davis and what sealed the deal for you to come to the Silver and Black?
one of the greatest stories that I had on my career is that when I was coming out of college, I played in a game called the East-West Shrine game. And they used to have their practices at Stanford. I remember coming up the hill from the practice facility and seeing Mr. Davis. And Mr. Davis, was over in one of his legendary white sweatsuits. He had his pal. His security guy, Butch, was with him. And so I was just like, oh, my gosh, that's Al Davis. I was starstruck, college kid coming out. So I walked over past him on the way to the locker room. And I said, Mr. Davis, my name is Lincoln Kennedy. And he stopped me right there. He's like, I know who you are. He's like, we've been watching you. He's like, we would love to have you a member of the Raiders, but you're not going to be available by the time we pick. Now, that draft, I think they had the 12th or 13th pick. Ended up taking Patrick Bates. But long story short, to close out the conversation, Mr. Davis said, wish you nothing but luck wherever you go, but I promise you one day you'll be a Raider. And I looked at him and said, oddly, well, how could he predict that? How could he, even think that? I was like, wow, it's so cool. Al Davis knows who I am. So at the time when I was unhappy in Atlanta and I demanded a trade, Ken Herock was the team president. And he had a relationship with the Raiders because he was a long-time scout and personal friend, Al Davis. And so when I told him that, after my third year, I was disgruntled with Atlanta, I wanted out. I went up to Ken and I said, okay, Ken, either pay me or trade me because I'll never play another down in a Falcon uniform. And Ken looked puzzled. He's just like, well, I know everything's not ideal, and I know that you're not, feeling happy, but we can't just let you go. You're a first-round draft choice. I said, well, that's not my responsibility. I'm telling you where I stand. You either trade me or cut me, but I'm not going to be playing anymore for the Falcons. So we went through the time where a bunch of teams were sold out. My agent was keeping me in contact. He gave me a call, said the Raiders were interested. And so at the time, this is 1996. At the time, I said, well, are they in LA or are they in Oakland? Because I had hung with the LA Raiders and partied with those guys when I was younger in college and as well as being in the league. And I didn't really want to go to LA because it was a distraction. Remember, I was never a big fan of LA. And so he said, no, they're going back to Oakland. And they've been playing last season. They played their games there. They're going to play their games there this year. And I was like, well, I really like to be a Raider. There were a couple other teams that were interested, but the Raiders were the ones I thought about most because I really I liked Joe Bugles, who was on the coaching staff, and he was going to draft me originally when I came out of college. He was the head coach at Arizona, the Cardinals, but Tony Mandrich has messed that up for using a top 5 pick on an offensive line because he was a bust. So there were a lot of teams that were leery of that happening again. So they drafted Garrison Hurst, but I was on the phone with them for the 3rd pick to possibly go there, but that didn't happen. So I was pleased with the staff, and I really wanted to play in Oakland.
Well, obviously, you made the best choice in your life right there. I mean, not that we had or I had anything to do with it. I think at the time, what year was that? 96?
Yeah, it was 1996.
Okay,
Got traded over.
Yeah, I was just coming back from England, and I actually called Mr. Davis and said, hey, I'm coming back from overseas, and we need to make sure we pick up Lincoln Kennedy. And he says, Captain, I'll make it happen for you. I said, well, thanks there, sir. I appreciate that. And of course it happened. So, again, all because of me and everybody else who wanted you on the team. I just wanted to make sure you knew that. But obviously,
well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
The best decision that you made. And I'm gonna stop for a little while. I want to make sure that I get through some of these questions, if you don't mind, Lincoln. It's a little bit out of order, but if I don't get to them, people are going to be mad at me. Okay.
All right.
Let's see here. The obvious question of the day is, how do you feel about the Raiders being tabbed to be on Hard Knocks?
I'm a little worried about it, but again, I'm less worried about it because, I mean, I think it was a long time coming, but I'm less worried about it because I'm not in that locker room. I'd be more worried about it as a player. Here's the thing. We know how today is, and everybody, I cover the game as well as you do. Everyone, the guys are different. the attention is different. And what I mean by that, social media and everything else, sometimes it can be a distraction. I didn't necessarily want it for the team because I didn't want the distraction when you're trying to get things right and right the ship. I think it might add to it. But at the same point, it's almost as fitting as, a guy like Antonio Brown or some of the other castaways like he used to be with the old Raiders coming over to the Raiders. Montez Perfect, another one of the guys that still had some play in them, some pretty good players, and now they're on the Raiders team. So it's a big distraction. I just hope they're able to pull their hold it together and get through it in one piece.
And that, which leads me to my next question, is: are the Raiders going to be the first team to break the Hard Knocks curse?
I certainly hope so. I mean, it would give me something good to report on. But you and I have seen this thing happen. Teams that go on Hard Knocks just don't fare well during that season. So, I mean, again, it's one of those distractions.
Well, I tell you, the Browns last year came close. And actually, if the Raiders had not beaten the Browns, and I think the way that it played out, that one win might have been and maybe they choked up a game later on, but they came close. So I think that with the right temperament for everybody there, and again, and this leads me to the next question, obviously amongst the and I'm sure people are asking this as well. What are your thoughts about how this team is made out as far as the mixture of the rookies, which you've had a big part in doing the interviews? I know you did one with Josh Jacobs, and you did I think there was you did one with another gentleman. Was it one of the with Cleveland Farrell, I believe?
Yeah, Farrell, and I did with all three of the first round draft choices as well. Yeah, Abram as well. Uh-huh.
Okay, so the mixture of these stalwart professionals, and we got a smorgasbord of some really good players in the first round. I'm not sugarcoating it. I really think that we did well with all the picks that we had, especially from 50 who no longer plays here. And again, the pick that we got for 50 and you know who I'm talking about.
I know you don't.
Okay, but the temperament between those rookies and the mixture we have with the older players that we have, plus I want to say like the medium ground players, like maybe the players that have been like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years in the league. They're not rookies, but they're still young enough, and they're young, hard chargers. And then, of course, quote unquote, the grizzled vets we have, Antonio Brown and Perfect and Joyner and the other folks that we've acquired. Give me a feel for how this locker room is. And I want you to, if you can, give me a player from each side of the ball that is going to be that, wow, you're going to be amazed at what this guy does this year.
Since I've been covering the team, I've seen them draft and address needs. And then, when Reggie was doing it was more through the draft, and now Gruden's done it. He's done it not only through free agency, but the biggest thing that when Gruden did when he took the job over, the Raiders really lacked competitive depth at every position. And you saw how the team was marred with injuries last year, especially at the receiver spot. So, the thing is that sort of the usual suspects when you talk about a foundation, you got to have a good left tackle, you got to have a quarterback, you always have to have a perennial pass rusher, and then, you have the other added things around there. What I know about Gruden's offense, the reason why he went out and paid the money that he paid for, say, Trent Brown, was because they had a blaring hole at right tackle. Colton Miller, for the most part, fared pretty well. It's really not an advantageous situation to put, in today's game, especially with as much passing going on, to put a rookie left tackle out there, especially in our division, when you talk about the pass rushers that are so prolific in our division and just around the league. But then last year, the Raiders had to use 2. And that there's really not going to be a whole lot of success when you have 2 rookie tackles starting in the National Football League at the same time. So the fact that Gruden's always liked to have a power running game because he felt that the run is set up to pass, either play action or just soften up the defense to be able to toss the ball downfield. That's the reason why he went out and got Trent Brown. And I think Trent Brown is going to be a tremendous asset because he's a big road grader, And Gruden has often said that he reminds him of me back in the day. It reminds him of me back in the day. So I'm hoping that takes off for the running game. But when you talk about this team and where they are, I've seen this team many years look good on paper. It's going to be how they come together. And I think the rules create a disadvantage, if you will, with as far as development goes and as far as building team chemistry. Because right now, everyone looks great in sweats. But the moment they put on pads and ask their bodies to do what their bodies are supposed to do in pads, then all of a sudden you have these, soft tissue injuries like hamstrings and groins and Achilles, and those are the things that destroy or, just deter seasonal effort. So when you talk about who's going to be what, I'm expecting big things out of Vontaze Burfict. I want to see if he makes the best of his second chance coming over from Cincinnati, because Paul Gunther did not have the players that he needed to get a defense. I think he's a very creative defensive coordinator, but he didn't have the players that he needed to make a defense. He didn't have anybody who could create a defense around after they lost 52. Hoping Arden Key is one of those young players that can come out of the shell. Now, the thing about Arden Key is that Arden's a pass rusher. He's a glorified nickel in. Doesn't necessarily do well against the run. He doesn't hold up that well against the run. But that's the reason why they went on guy Flores from Clemson, who I'm pleased with because I saw a progression and an improvement from one year to the next just watching the kid in the national championship games that he played over the last couple of seasons. So I think he's an every down defensive end. So addressing that defensive line, addressing that pass rush spot, more importantly, getting the players they need not only in the front seven, but the back end, the secondary, I think is going to make the defense better and more competitive. Also, getting the weapons that they've got for Derek Carr, because this, to me, is a proven season for Derek Carr. He's got the contract, and he's supposed to be the franchise quarterback. However, the Raiders are going to have 2 first-round picks next year. And if Derek Carr does not have a good season and he struggles because he got shell-shocked because he got hit so much this last season, if he doesn't show improvement and have a good season with the weapons around, I honestly feel that Gruden's probably going to move on from him.
And well, I appreciate the fact that for those that have listened to me, and again, I'm going to play I Love I Told You So, is I told people that the OTAs are underwear drills, and everybody looks good in underwear drills. And it's for the team to come out and gel together. Gruden 2.0, that second year is very important in the fact that Rich Gannon in his second year under Gruden was an MVP in the league, okay?
Right.
And there's going to be that hopeful ascension of Derek Carr in this offense because, second of all, he's got this second year of being in the system, plus he's got a hell of a lot of people to throw to and hand the ball off to. Now, when you were playing, you had Thunder and Lightning back there with Garner and Wheatley. I mean,
yes.
Do you see that as a composite of what we're trying to do now as with who we got in the backs and then who we got on the receivers? I mean, you got AB and obviously Williams. I mean, they're not Brown and Rice, but, they're probably the best in the league. Yeah, they're not bad. And then, at tight end, you got Waller, who is a better specimen than Rowan Williams is, but he definitely needs to learn how to block like Rowan Williams. And then, like I said, in the backfield, obviously, you got the backs that are going to be there. And I tell people it's a matter of this team gelling together. And I thank you for making people say, hey, the captain is not a schmuck just because I said that it's going to take a while for them to gel. And that's why this is a very important year. Thank you, Lincoln. You make me feel better anyway.
Well, I'm glad I can help, Ken. The thing is that we're at a time where you saw a glimpse of possibilities of what could be last year, but due to the injuries and due to just the sheer nature of the composition of the team, yeah, you had backs that could come out of the backfield like Jalen Richard that could catch and disrupt linebackers and zone coverages. But however, you did not have a short down back. So when you got on the goal line, you had to line up and go on shotgun. And we already know how difficult it is with less than the field to do that. And without having a true like a possession style receiver. You asked Jordy Nelson to do that, but you found out quickly that Jordy Nelson had lost a couple of steps after his injury and won his displacement from Green Bay. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are to be picked up with the guys they have. But at the same point, everything that we see right now is on paper. Once we get to the real deal, once we get to the season, we'll see what we truly have.
And I think that I say that those 5 weeks away from weeks 3 through 7 is going to be a testament, a gut check of where this team can be. I think that as long as they can get through that patch together and get through on the other side in firing on at least 3 of the 4 cylinders, or maybe firing on 6 of the 8 cylinders, if we're going to have a V8, then we'll be good to go.
Well, I'm a very practical, realistic man, as you know, John, and I would tell you this. Though I'm not predicting the Raiders are going to go to the Super Bowl this year, I'm hoping that they're way more competitive than their 4-win show that they were last year. And what I mean by that, especially in this division, I think they're capable of being maybe a 7 or 8 win team. And that's double from what they had last year. But you talk about the schedule, you talk about these distractions from Canada to London, and how you manage those are going to be the true tell sign of how this team is going to go. More importantly, how you manage a personality like Antonio Brown in the locker room, because we've seen that once he doesn't get the ball, how much of a disruption that he can be. That's the last thing that you want. Now, I don't doubt for a second, and I'll back the statement up a little bit. Derek Carr and John Gruden are going to get Antonio Brown the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry about that. They're going to get him the ball. But again, in times of adversity, you'll see the true nature of people, and we'll see how this team with this mix of young and old tries to hold it together. The reason why they went out and drafted a guy like Furr with the fourth pick overall is because he was a high character guy, and people at Clemson spoke very highly of his leadership abilities. That's what you get towards the future. And I'm telling you that from the way things were in the past, this locker room was really devoid of true leadership in the locker room. For what it's worth, I love Derek Carr, but Derek Carr is quiet in his own way, and especially he's a religious man, a devout religious man, which is fine. It's just hard to get people to follow that if you don't have somebody who can get it up in other people's faces.
Okay. And one other quick one, and I've been looking at the questions, and I pretty much, between what you've said, have answered what most of the things about them. The important thing for me, and as well as the other people, is our offensive line coach, Tom Cable.
Right.
Without getting in trouble, because I know you work for the organization, I'm not going to ask you to do anything to put your foot in it, okay? First off, we want you as the offensive line coach, but we're going to have you do double duty. We're going to have you as the O-line coach, and you're still going to have to do your color commentary. Unless you want me to do that for you, then I'll step in for you. Okay?
Okay, I appreciate that. No, but no, I'm good. No, I don't have the patience to be a coach, so I'm good.
Well, what a lot of people are asking is, will this offense be better under Cable this year with obviously a better roster and hopefully injuries that, as of right now, nobody's injured, I don't think. So hopefully the injuries won't get to us this year. And obviously they have a new strength and conditioning coaches out there. So we want to make sure that the backbone of this offense is keeping Derek clean and running the ball. And as an offensive lineman, the most important thing is to run the ball, keep your quarterback clean, chew the clock. That gives your defense a chance to rest and be that much better. We want to make sure that O-line is better, and that's what they want to know about. Is this offensive line going to be light years better than last year?
Well, I do believe they will. Look, once we figure out what the suspension thing is going to be with Richie Incognito, but I think he's capable of stepping in left guard. And they've got some other guys that they can sort of put in place. The thing is before we go and get critical of Cable, let's back up and explain the situation and truly understand. The theory was when they drafted Colton Miller was that they were going to have Donald Penn return from his foot injury at left tackle, Colecchio Simile at left guard, Rodney Hudson, who's still All-Pro, at center, Gabe Jackson at right guard, and then you're going to put Colton Miller, get him introduced to the National Football League at right tackle, because he played both at UCLA. I covered him in the Pac-12. put him at right tackle. Well, unbeknownst to Cable and unbeknownst to anybody, especially the new coaching staff coming in, Donald Penn's foot from that foot injury never responded. It happened to be on his plant foot, which he could not put pressure on as a left tackle. And so they said, okay, well, he can't play left tackle because he just doesn't have the support that he needs with his lower body that he once had. So they wanted to move him to right tackle and put Colton Miller at left tackle. So we're going to have to start a rookie at left tackle, which is dangerous, I suppose. But no one expected that Donald Penn would do or respond the way that he did. And, putting it frankly, I just looked at it. He didn't like playing right tackle. And I thought that he would be a little bit mature and just say, I want to do what's best for the team. But, you call it like it is. He didn't like playing. And it showed in his play. And it showed in his preparation. And so you were forced to, again, end up playing 2 rookie tackles in the National Football League. That's not a recipe for success, Cap. And then you talk about the injuries that marred Colecchio Assembly. Well, pretty much throughout the year, you didn't have that line altogether. Big money that you paid to your left guard, 2 rookie tackles were starting for you. You were trying to mix and match all of that. And then on top of that, you had a quarterback that was shell-shocked because he had been hit so many times that he didn't want to stand back there for long. He's not a Rich Gannon who we knew would take off and run. He's one of those guys that wanted to stand tall in the pocket, and even though he's got some speed and some athletic ability, it's just not part of his makeup to run.
Gotcha.
So, when you look at all of that, you want to sit there and put blame on somebody and say, oh, well, it's the offensive line coach, or they don't like the offensive line coach. Well, you don't hire somebody to fire them. And the truth of the matter is that dealing with those circumstances, I don't think anybody could have a recipe for success. And everybody wants somebody's head to fall when things go. So I don't totally blame Coach Cable for the things that happened last year. I know that the circumstances that preceded him, especially when he got the job, made it very difficult for him to be successful as a coach. And I saw the frustration on his face after every single game, and I felt for him. I felt really bad for him. So now we're at a point where they've addressed the offensive line problems. And again, just like Derek Carr, this upcoming season, there's not going to be any excuses. You've got running backs that can run between the tackles. You didn't necessarily have that last year, especially when Marshawn Lynch went down. And then, you talk about the turnovers, the issue that the running back had with the fumbles. All those things that combined for the poor season the Raiders had. And I'm not blaming Tom Cable for this. It was just a bad team.
Now, I'm glad you said that because, again, I said similar things, not as eloquently as you, but I said, listen, the offensive line went through trials and tribulations last year between the folks, the bookends that are there at left and right tackle, and the fact that by the time that you played Cincinnati, you had guys that were coming in off the street to be your 2 guards. You can't win like that, folks. So you have to remember what was going on last year. And I think that it will be better. And you're an O-lineman. I was an O-lineman way back when, and I slept at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So I appreciate all that you had on that, and we appreciate the insight there. We've been asked, and I'm going to do the highlight before the low light. What were some of the more memorable games or experiences you had while in Oakland?
I think the first time I went out in the field and I saw that somebody had put a sign up on Kennedy Corner, and had a little spot in the stadium. When I first became enamored with the Raider Nation, was just a wonderful thing. I was embraced from day one. I came in there with a mission. I came to Oakland with a mission to prove that I wasn't a bust, because a lot of people had written me off, especially not having a career that I wanted or expected to start off the way it did. So I came in on a mission. And so one of the reasons why when I got to the Raiders and Bugle was the offensive line coach, I told him, I'm here to play and I'm here to do whatever I can to help this team be successful. And I was an instant starter. I played on both sides, but Bugle came to me one day and said, You're a good player. You're a better right tackle than you are a left tackle, so we're going to leave you on the right side. And so that was my main fixture. And playing with great guys like, Tim Brown and eventually getting Rich Gannon and all the trials and tribulations that we went through as a team, the good seasons and the bad, one of the most memorable times was winning the AFC Championship against Tennessee on our home field and hoisting up the Lamar Hunt Trophy. Because one thing was I didn't realize that damn thing was so heavy, and then I was so tired, my shoulders could barely hold it up. So,
hey, that is a memorable picture. That's one of the best pictures of you. Is the you holding the trophy, and I'm sure all of Raider Nation says this as well, and we mean it. Why isn't it called the Al Davis Trophy? But that we digress. We digress.
You already know that the NFL, as much trouble they have with Mr. Davis, they're not going to name one of their most famed trophies after him if they have their way about it.
Oh, we know that, and I'm doing the I don't know if you can watch this, but I'm doing like the fingers I got you right now type of thing. On you come back and watch it. Now, obviously, I would think one of your not so shining moments was the Super Bowl, and I'm just gonna let you talk at ease of what you thought of that. And obviously, it's not fun being shellacked 38 to. Or sorry, wrong Super Bowl. I had the one in Tampa, 42-21, I believe.
I don't know. Well, I know that we were separated by interceptions for touchdowns. So,
yeah. So I see. I'm automatically it's 38-9. I always have that one on cue because that's here in Tampa, and that was the great one. But again, the Raiders were coming back at the end, but everybody is going to harp on the Gruden factor. And now that John is back in the room, okay, have you ever had a chance, or since he's been back there, to kind of, get his thoughts on that, that now that you're both off the cuff and, he's back in the fold to right the wrong, even though it wasn't his fault that he was traded, but to right the wrong, to make sure that we are the ones hoisting the Lombardi next time we're in the show, about that contest.
Well, I mean, look, I go back to that day and that game, and, of course, hindsight is always 20/20, but the truth of the matter is that when you realize what happened, I mean, it made perfect sense. It was one of those things where you would think that coaches or more, conducive minds would have figured it out back then. But Gruden basically knew us better than we knew ourselves. And he said, to his defensive coordinator was Monty Kiffin, when you line up in this defense, you show this look, Rich Gannon is going to go to this check. And this is going to be his audible. Because back in our heyday, our biggest successes, we only kept ran about 11, 12 plays. We just ran different variations of those plays. And we got pretty doggone good and efficient at it. I mean, there were times where I didn't even need to pay attention to the huddle call because I could just look by formation, who we had in the huddle, and knew what we were playing, knew what we were doing. It had become like that. So that well-versed for us. So Gruden knew us better than we knew ourselves, and that's why when he gave the audibles to Monty Kiffin, that's why the entire Tampa defense knew what we were doing whenever we checked something. And we realized that late in the first half that they had was early in the first half, probably around after the first quarter going into the second quarter, because that's when the score became a little bit lopsided. We realized that they did it, and then, of course, we had the adage that Adam True, our backup center, was in the game. And because it was such a high-intensity situation, if you would, being a Super Bowl, even when Rich Gannon wanted to go with dummy calls, I had tried to talk him down from that, or dummy audibles, because I had tried to talk him down from that because I didn't want Adam True to get confused and maybe check the wrong way, get Rich hit, that type of thing. So we had to do away. We didn't prepare as well as I would have thought that we could. Now, we went into this locker room in the second half, and we did some things that we could knew were safe plays that we could call. We needed to check out, especially with some of the looks. That's why we were able to sort of make a run in the second half. But the game had gotten so far out from the first half that it really made it difficult. And Tampa Bay, for what it's worth, was a decent team. Conversely, they ran our offense. So I was on the sideline calling out every one of their plays, because I could tell from formation and personnel what they were running, but our defense wasn't as prepared. They didn't realize that they were playing against us. So it could have been used the same thing. So that's what I said. The coaching staff were ill prepared for that game and that day.
Okay, and I want to remind people that was the last Super Bowl where there was not 2 weeks in between the conference championship game and the Super Bowl. And that was another screw factor, sorry to say, that really hurt the Raiders. You think that maybe with that extra week that things could have been done differently?
I do think so because the truth of the matter is that for me, I didn't take it as seriously as I should have. I was in my hometown. It was in my backyard. I was playing the Super Bowl at a field where I'd beaten the Chargers many times, and had played for a high school championship, CIF championship on that field. But I was in my hometown, and I was partying like it was 1999. So by the time the game came around, I was tired. With that being said, now the way teams do it and watching teams, they get all that stuff done the week prior, and then the week up to the Super Bowl when they leave and for the destination, it's a work week. I wish that I had that same mentality back when I did it, because I didn't take it as seriously or respect it, because I just thought I was that arrogant. I thought we were that good that we were just going to run away with it. It was a for sure thing that we were going to win.
Well, Lincoln, actually, and I bring this up to everybody here in Tampa because, trust me, I have to field these questions all the time.
I know.
Such is life. But the time before that the Raiders had played the Buccaneers, they had played them in Oakland with essentially the same teams. I think Simeon Rice was maybe the only real big addition to the Buccaneers defense at that time. And you on the Raiders whooped them 45-0.
Yeah. And at that time, because we had the number one ranked offense, we were rolling high. We just beat Tennessee at home to win the AFC Championship. We were feeling ourselves. I can honestly say we were feeling ourselves. And I was thoroughly distracted because, like I said, I'm in my hometown of San Diego, and I'm partying like a rock star because I'm on everybody's VIP list. And again, things that you didn't take seriously, didn't listen to. I didn't listen to Jerry Rice and Rod Woodson and those guys that have been there before. But I really wanted to live it up because, to be truthful, I kind of felt that was going to be my last game. I was at a point in my career, Captain, where if we had won that game, I was ready to retire because I was kind of burnt out from football. And this would have been the pinnacle swan song, if you will, to walk out on if you're able to win the Super Bowl.
Well, I tell you what, when we get that time machine ready, we're going to make it happen. We're going to do it. And good segue there. I'm going to say a name, and if you can give me like your first like rapid fire, what the first thoughts that come to you in your mind. Okay. Okay. Rich Gannon.
I made him pull out his checkbook to do a gift for the guys one time, as a present for the guys. But other than that, Rich is a good guy, and I was glad we got him because he was a vagabond who traveled around a lot of teams, never really getting a call. I thought he was a good quarterback. But when we got him, I earned a hell of a lot more respect for him because his play. He just put everything into his play. Great guy.
Okay. Tim Brown.
Another great guy. One of the best. Mr. Consistent. Was always there in the clutch and would give everything to be successful. Had the pleasure of playing with him and Jerry Rice. So two Hall of Fame receivers that really taught me a lot about the game.
Okay. Bill Romanowski as an opponent and as a teammate.
I told Bill when the first day he showed up, I hated playing against you. I wanted to fight you every time I was out there against you. But now that you're a member of the Raiders, I will go to war with you. So it was. I was glad that he closed out we closed out our careers together.
Okay. Derek Carr.
Derek Carr has a lot. The jury's still out in my opinion on him. The reason why is I've seen him at times really showcase his talent and ability. I think he's a quarterback that can make every throw on the football field. I just think they need more. If you're going to truly be a franchise quarterback, they need more, and he needs to bring out more. And I'm not really sure how he does that, but like I said, I think for a Raiders standpoint, this is a make or break it year for him.
Okay. Two more. Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown. First, we're sort of a prima donna, diva, if you will. But I think it's right for the Raiders, especially in the transition to Las Vegas. He can be a star receiver, but he can also be a spoiled child.
Okay, and I'm going to surprise you. I'm not going to ask about John because I know you're ready for that. But Mr. Gruden, John, Coach, whoever, John Gruden is John Gruden. We pretty much know, or do we? Actually, I will ask that. Do we really know the John Gruden that he professes to be, or is there something else there that would surprise us if we knew X, Y, or Z?
I don't think what you see is what you get. I think the whole persona that was created over his time initially in Oakland as Chucky was something that was created for the camera, and I think he kind of embellishes that. But at the same point, he is just—he's a football fanatic. He really is. He just loves football, loves the coach, and has a very creative mind. But basically, what you see for the most part is what you're going to get from him.
Okay, and the last one, because like I said, I wasn't going to give you John. Our defensive coordinator, Paul Gunther.
Love Paul Gunther. I do. I love his mind. I love his creativity, and I love the way that he creates schemes. And got to keep in mind, I mean, I had the pleasure of being around some pretty creative defensive minds. Willie Shaw was one of the ones that came to mind back in the day. But for the most part, I played on offensive-minded teams. And so I think this defense can really be special. Now they've got some of the pieces and addressed some of the holes. I think this defense can really be special. And even though I was an offensive player, I know defense will win championships. Offenses put them in the seats. I just want to be able to slow down some people, especially, since we've got a guy in our division that's going to be there for the next 10, 12 years that looks pretty doggone good in that red and white uniform. So I'm hoping that we can create some defenses that slow him down and make things hard on him.
Amen. Preaching to the choir and everybody that's here on that one. Okay, and Lincoln, thank you for that. And I don't want to keep you on too long. If an hour is good for you, I'm only going to ask you a few more. Okay. You come to your end of your career, and two things: you love the game so much that you play in the Arena Football League for the local Tampa Bay Storm. What's it like to go from, being a stalwart in the NFL to being the big man on campus here playing for the Storm?
Not what I expected. Now, I will say this. The Tampa Bay Storm fan base was very well receptive, and I loved it. But arena football, as you already know, Captain, is a different animal altogether. And I wasn't aware of it. Now, I had, like most athletes, after they leave the game, a year or two goes by, we all get the itch that we think we can do it. And when I tried to come back, it was 2007, I think it was. I was 36. I just felt that I could give, I saw what was going on with the team. I had approached Michael Lombardi and the Raiders, and they said that they didn't know if I was still capable of playing at the high level. So I wanted to use arena ball as a showcase, a stepping stone, if you will, to be able to show that I could still play. But the arena situation in Tampa Bay, it was comical. But I enjoy the fans and I enjoy the game atmosphere. The fact that we never really had a true practice facility, we kind of had to collectively go somewhere and onto parks or boys clubs or wherever we could find just a little bit of field to do a practice. So I'll have an organized practice was something that was new to me because we were a professional team. Just the whole accommodations and everything else was really different, especially coming from a professional NFL team to an arena team. And they are professionals, but it's just different. But it was not what I expected. It really took the last little bit of desire to play football out of me. Let's put it that way.
Well, because I've been reading some of the comments. They want you to play right now. So they want you to do everything. They want you to play. They want you to be the offensive line coach. They probably want you to sell hot dogs and season tickets for both Oakland and Vegas. And therein lies a good segue, and I just made it myself. the team is going to Vegas. Everybody knows that. What do you foresee are going to be some of the bigger issues this year with this team in what is unfortunately a lame duck year, but at least they got another year amongst the Oakland fan base?
I hope, what's going to be a true misfortune is that these young guys there's some young guys that we've got that we drafted that really have an eye or passion for football. And it saddens me to see that they will never really truly understand what it means to play and to be a part of Oakland. Oakland is one of those blue-collar sports towns where I really thoroughly enjoyed playing in front of the people. And Vegas is not going to be the same thing. It's not going to be the same. There's going to be a good portion of the Raider Nation that's going to be there. But it's not going to be the overwhelming support because just the whole buildup of Vegas itself is different. So the glamour and the glitz, and don't get me wrong, I've been affiliated with the team for over 20-something years since 1996. And even back then when I talked with Mr. Davis, he said that they were going to get a new stadium and they were going to have all the bells and whistles like all these other teams and all these other cities had done for them. And we fast forward to this moment, and it still didn't happen. This team deserves its own stadium. I believe that the Raiders are one of the most iconic teams in professional sports lore, and there's really no reason why they should be sharing with a baseball team. So the Vegas thing, though, I would love to see them stay in Oakland. I understand why it had to happen. And I think the stadium is going to be great, and it's going to be a great atmosphere for professional football. But it's going to be different than it is in Oakland, as you already know. With that being said, it's a new opportunity, a new challenge, a new frontier for a team to make its mark. And it can be a big spectacle. It can be a distraction if you allow it to be. I just don't foresee today's players as doing it, allowing it to be a distraction. These guys are different, Cam. These guys are different. So I'm going to miss they don't get a chance to grow in Oakland, but I am looking forward to the new opportunity to see how this team does in Vegas.
Okay, and as we all are, and two more, and I swear I'll shut up. And that's saying something for me. As your career ends, you're not playing for the Storm anymore. What led you to getting into obviously the PR/broadcasting aspect, and what's it like a typical work week for you during the season and actually even during the off season when the Raiders said, hey, we want you to interview these guys. We want you to do things like that. Because obviously those that are aspiring to do things like you, like me, need to know, what's it like and how is that transition and what do you do? Because people think that you just they know you prep, but I want folks to realize how much of a hard job it is and to know better to get it from the source as what you do on a weekly basis.
A lot of people don't realize that it was actually broadcasting that made me retire in the first place. I got an offer from my last year. I got an offer from the NFL Network. I went down there, and it was the early days of the NFL Network. I went down and had an open audition. I was just actually there for one of our bye weeks, and was doing some stuff on camera, and they made me an offer. And at the time, my body and mind were beat up and fatigued from football, but I had no idea what I was going to do. They came and made me a lucrative offer to do television 4 days a week in Los Angeles, and I could still maintain my house in the Bay Area and stuff like that with the money I was bringing in. So that's what actually got me into broadcasting initially, working for the NFL Network 4 days a week. However, I became a little bit pulled away from it because talking football every day, even in the off season, was not my cup of tea. It was actually quite boring. I mean, you can only answer the question so many times, when is Brett Favre going to retire? And, back then when we were doing Total Access with Rich Eisen, I kind of felt like I was just a sidekick. I had to agree with him because the NFL they didn't really monitor, they didn't want to censor what you were saying, but you couldn't be too critical of him because you were working for him. So I had another issue with that. So I kind of morphed into radio right before I took the chance to try Arena Ball. I then got back into broadcasting, went back into radio after the Arena Ball sort of escapade ended. And then tried other things. Also had an insurance agency for 4 years, but that was no cup of tea to me. So the long way of answering your question, the long way around of answering your question, typically during the season now, because I do both college and pro football, I do all the Raiders games, and I do a couple of college football games, especially for the Pac-12, but more so a studio analyst for college football. And I also have my syndicated radio show with Fox Sports Radio. That's on every Saturday morning, 6 to 10 a.m. for you East Coasters, 3 to 7 a.m. for the West Coasters. Prep is expensive, but what I do like about radio, and this is one of the thrills that I get out of broadcasting, is with radio, Fox Sports Radio, I have to cover off the big four. I have to cover every sport. So I have to have some knowledge on hockey, on golf, on tennis, and then the levels of the different sports where you have both collegiate or semi-pro and pro. You got to have some knowledge to be able to hold a conversation. So that's the challenge for doing radio. And I'm an avid reader, so I like picking up periodicals or catching up with the headlines and stuff like that. And that really helps me do my job on both sides. For the Raiders, it's simple in the sense why I say it's simple, that really all I have to do is prep film work with the other team because I know how the Raiders play. So it's just like every week I'm just like I was as a player. I'm watching game film, so I know what to talk about with the other team. And knowing the Raiders back of my hand, that's simple. College is a little bit more difficult. Working for the Pac-12 network, I have to be aware of 12 teams in the conference, obviously, and then, of course, their opponents. So that's a little bit more extensive. So college can be a little tedious, but during the season, I grind pretty much from the month or mid-July all the way to mid-January. And unless I get some responsibilities in the Super Bowl, which are the first weekend of February, then I'm off for a while when it comes to football, just concentrating on the other sports with the radio show.
Okay. And like I said, anytime you need somebody to carry your bags, I'm available because
appreciate that, Cap.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll have a big enough dolly because I'm sure that I'm going to need one because I'm a little bit older, but you're in better shape than me. Now, I know personally that you work charitable causes. I know that you are very heavily involved with the Blitnikoff Foundation and with Tracy's House of Hope and things along those lines. Are there anything else charitable or any causes that you wish to make sure gets plugged right here so people can go and look into them and give the requisite support that they need?
Well, I've always been a big fan of the Boys and Girls Clubs of America because I grew up in a Boys and Girls Club in Southeast San Diego, and it really helped me stay off the streets, especially in times where we're really difficult. So I'm a big fan of the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, as well as I travel around various places, especially here in Arizona, in California, talking to state and school programs and stuff like that to help out with that. So along with reading is fundamental. So there's several charities. I'm also involved with the Football Matters movement, which is being sponsored by the National Football Foundation and the NFL and other entities, because as we know, there's been sort of a depletion here in the States of parents letting their kids play football. Now, football is a great game. It comes with its inherent risk, as most people understand, but it's not one that, I mean, you should totally let kids stop playing, because I think people can learn a great deal for playing the game of football. It's a great sport. So part of that movement as well. Well,
and I thank you. And again, is there anything that I might have missed that you just want to say?
No, Captain, I think I talked long enough to cover everything, right?
Pretty much. And again, if you don't mind, Lincoln, when I close this, please stay on the line, and I want to talk to you quickly afterwards. But again, this has been probably my favorite episode of Black Shield and Galleon Wheel webcast with Raider great Lincoln Kennedy. Lincoln, thank you for being here wholeheartedly. You've definitely made my night, and I know that as people watch this, they'll get a chance to see. I mean, they know that you're personable and just awesome anyway, but they'll get a chance to see, hopefully, some insight into you that they might not get a chance to see. Make sure you go see Lincoln every chance you get. Are you going to be doing any events coming up?
No, nothing coming up. Got my boys for the summer, my sons, and we'll be doing a little bit of traveling right before the season starts, taking them around and enjoying time with them.
Well, the open invitation, I swear, open invitation, when the room gets done, please come by, and the wife will make lumpia, and so it'll be good to go. And it'll be a good time, and we'll have you over here. But again,
well, I'm looking forward to it.
And again, thank you for joining me, Raider Nation, with Lincoln Kennedy. Lincoln, again, stay on the line. Join me Thursday for a regular episode of Ask Captain Jack. If you didn't get your fix of what's going on with the Raiders, then obviously join me. You listen to this old man talk about it and get a chance to call in. You get a chance to call in tonight, because why would you call in? Lincoln's on. So, and hope you enjoyed that. Take care, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday. And thanks again. This is Captain Jack. Yeah! Raider Nation. We'll see you next time.